regulatory affairs is a job which is dealing with the coordination and documentation of internal regulatory processes. This is dealing with prescription drugs, with cosmetics registration, medical devices, natural products, etc. And this is dealing with audits, inspections, request for licenses, preparation of packages for Health Canada, for FDA, for European Medicines Agency. We apply for the registration. If we are having a product on the market, we are going to look into again, what are the changes or notifiable changes that we have to report to the regulatory authorities? So these are all of the activities allowing us to not only launch a product to the market, but also to keep the product on the market. So regulatory affairs department is the main department in any pharmaceutical industry dealing directly with again, regulatory authorities in the country in which they are doing their business. Now let's go over, I would say, a sample of reported job titles. You can have job titles like drug regulatory affairs specialist, regulatory affairs analyst, associate, a consultant, of course, a strategist, engineer, okay, or a submission associate. So they do have in different companies, based on their human resources structure, you may have different job titles, but usually an entry-level position in the pharmaceutical regulatory affairs is called associate. Now we have again students who start by finishing their program in regulatory affairs, and then they are going to start an internship, a co-op. If not, some they are going to start as a regulatory affairs associate, and then gradually, based on again the classification of the jobs and the way that we name the jobs in each company, they are going to have different job titles. But the overall work is to deal with regulatory process. So anything related to the launch of the drug, to registration of the drug, and of course to maintain the license to sell the drug or any, again, a pharmaceutical product. Now let's go over the specific informations about the occupation, okay? We do have here several people who did share with us again what they are really doing in their job. So we have, for example, among the tasks, to coordinate efforts associated with the preparation of regulatory documents and submissions. We have other reports that talk about coordination to prepare and to review regulatory submissions for domestic and international projects. Another job description is talking about determining the types of regulatory submissions or internal documentation that are required in situations such as proposed device changes or labeling changes. And of course, the last one I'm going to read, to review adverse drug reactions and file all related reports in accordance with regulatory agency guidelines. The last one is not a job of regulatory affairs unless the way that, again, this has been classified as a job by the HR, again, department, may now, of course, include this type of task. If not, reporting of adverse drug reactions is always under the, I would say, the responsibility of a department that we call pharmacovigilance. And of course, this is a topic of another job that we can, of course, again, cover, but in other lectures, not here. Now you may say, okay, in order to do all of the jobs included in the regulatory affairs, what are the technology skills that I need? So people, they talked about accounting softwares, okay, which is, again, not really relevant to the regulatory affairs, but we can have analytical or scientific softwares. And those analytic and scientific softwares, they are, again, it depends if they are in any company, and companies, they may purchase those softwares, or they may even make them we call that in-house. So they have an IT department, and they are going to prepare different types of softwares that they need. So here, when we talk about the scientific softwares, we can obviously use statistical softwares in case one of the job description of someone in regulatory affairs would be to manage the data. Now, the data can come from I would say the legal department, from the sales department. It may be coming from the clinical research department or for the pharmacovigilance department, but the data should be really related to the submission package that regulatory affairs is doing. Because when you are a regulatory affairs specialist, you are not going to work on clinical trials, or you're not going to work in the pharmacovigilance department unless, of course, the company is small and you're having two hats, so reg affairs and, for example, pharmacovigilance. If not, we are not going to, again, do statistical analysis, again, in regulatory affairs. Then we can look into business intelligence and data analysis software. Obviously, we can always look into the competitive intelligence. We do have product monographs, we do have adverse drug reactions that we receive from the pharmacovigilance department, and we would like to compare the safety profile of our drug with an existing drug or a competitor. In this case, we can also use this type of softwares. You can also, and you will have, database user interface and query softwares such as Microsoft Access, SQL Server. But again, we don't want you to be a programmer. We are not asking you to have an IT degree when you go to regulatory affairs, but we want you to be familiar with different interfaces of different softwares. And you may now say that, yes, but I don't know which software we are using in a specific company. You are right. But if you, for example, learned about how to use Microsoft Access, which is a portable database and not as sophisticated as Oracle or, again, other databases that we can purchase, still you are now familiar with the interfaces, with some built-in functions, with the use of a database in general. So it's always a plus to have some understanding of data management, databases, and of course, I am inviting you to also look into, I would say, watch a video that I also published related to the use of artificial intelligence in the big data analysis and in clinical research data analysis, to understand that nowadays we are also looking into your ability to understand and, of course, to use several artificial intelligence language models such as U.com, ChatGPT, Copilot, in order to, again, use those as a type of assistant for your everyday job in regulatory affairs. And we have more and more companies using these language models in artificial intelligence, giving only access to their internal employees. So this is within the company intranet. And we give access to only company data. So the artificial intelligence language model, which is now working internally within the intranet of a company, will also have access to only company documents and knowledge. And this is why we can always use this type of technology in order to drill down, to look into our own company content. Then we also need that you know about the document management software. A document management software is very similar to Dropbox, to Box, to we have, again, something it doesn't come to my mind, but we have OneDrive for Microsoft. It can be iCloud from Apple. You have tens of these different document management systems, and when you go to any company, they may have installed already a document management system such as EDMS or electronic document management system, or other types of again, softwares. They can also have their software that they use for their total quality management system, and one of the modules that comes with the software is again a document management module. And what it does, is that it's going to allow you to save a document, to retrieve a document, change a document, but when you save it again, this will be saved under the same name, but with a different version, so that you can have what we call an audit trail. You can always go back again and look into the history of each document, okay, from the time when the first time it has been made. So a knowledge of a document management software, any, just to understand the built-in functions, the I would say the level of privacy, security, how to use it is of course a must. You can also have, of course, medical softwares. Yes, obviously, we may look into again healthcare common procedure coding system if your regulatory activity is involving this type of activities. You also need to look into, or of course, using presentation softwares. So for the presentation softwares, again, of course, you don't have only PowerPoint, you have other type of presentations. Prezi as well, which is one of those types. But again, there are again hundreds of the presentation softwares. Here we talk only about Microsoft PowerPoint because that's the one that, again, many majority of companies they have. This is just to be able to use a PowerPoint, add slides, remove slides, and of course adding content, and then of course to be able to make presentations. And of course, you may also, depends on the company, but if you're a small company and you don't have an IT department, to learn about the transaction security and virus protection software. Now, your next question about the regulatory affairs job is what are the tools that are used in the regulatory affairs setting? So, when you're going to work in a company, you may have your laptop, desktops, you may have fax machines because we still use fax machine in order to send documents to Health Canada and to receive again different, I would say, documents as well from Health Canada. Then you can also, of course, you will need to work on photocopiers. Still, we use that with the scanners as well. And of course, if applicable, to special purpose phones. These are multi-line phone systems. This may be as well for teleconferencing. Now, let's go over the occupational requirements or talking about the work activities. Okay, the most important work activity here is to evaluate the information to determine compliance with standards. So here we talk about using relevant information and individual judgment to determine whether events or processes comply with laws, regulations, or standards. This is where if you had a certificate in good manufacturing practice, in good clinical practice, in pharmacovigilance management, in preparation of clinical trial application in CTD format, or the preparation of new drug submission in CTD format, they're all examples of standards, international standards, submission packages using different rules and laws and regulations that must be from Canada. This is why if you already have your certificates, okay, anything relevant to regulatory affairs activities from other countries, this is good to have, but this is not what we need to see in your resume. You may have experience in document management, in project management, for example, in regulatory affairs, or making submissions. However, we know very well that for the submissions, everything is not the same. The forms are not the same. The regulations and guidance documents are not the same. Hence, you will need to have certificates taken in Canada that are based on Canadian laws and regulations and guidelines. Then the other work activity for you is to get the information. It's of course having a good sense of observation, receiving and otherwise obtaining information from all relevant sources. This means that when a manager is coming to you, giving you a package to prepare, you're not going to go back to your manager to say, you know what, I don't know where to go and take this. Can you tell me how to take this? How to take that document? A manager hired you in order to do the job yourself. We say to the manager what must be done. A manager will come to you to tell you what must be done, and you know how to do that. So you will need to have the skills in order to search. You need to go and search in Health Canada website, in FDA website, in European Medicines Agency or EMA website. You have to read through those different guidance documents. You may have to go to ich.org in order to learn more about ICH guidance documents. So you will need to be able to find the document, of course, this, the right source of the document, read the document if it's a regulation, to apply that. And of course, if there's any form to complete the forms. If there's any package that needs to be completed, that you will need to find the forms, the regulations, and of course the requirements to fill out the package, adding information, completing the forms again, adding some type of, I don't know, literature review if needed, and then to submit that to the right person, place within the regulatory agency of the country in which you would like to sell or register your drug. And now it's not just the end of your job, this is just the beginning, because then you will need to be able to have the communication back and forth with regulatory authorities. So this is why we want you to be able to get the information. Another important work activity is to communicate with supervisors, peers, and subordinates. Of course, we don't use the term subordinates anymore, mainly in Canada. We talk about direct reports. So when you're going to deal with supervisors, peers, and direct reports, you will need to be able to talk the regulatory affairs language. This is why you will need to work on your vocabulary, because this is a very specialized work or job, and we have specific terms like any other specialized job, and we will need to be able to communicate. Now the communication through again the specific terms are between you and the public, you and the government, and of course you and consultants or other sources, and it will of course include in writing or verbal communication or by phone or email. You will also need to be able to make decisions and solving problems, meaning that common sense, of course, here is common sense, okay? And you also need to have some experience on problem solving. The problem may be an issue with the deadlines. It may be, again, an issue with a supplier sending you some GMP certificates. The issue may be a competitor that is, again, they went to Canada and they made a complaint about some type of advertisement that your company did put on YouTube, on TV. So these are all different, I would say, communications that I would say issues that may require communications, and these are all problems or issues or challenges that we have as well. So you need to know about the regulations and rules and where to go to find the rules, what are the timelines, what are the requirements, what are the standards, in order to understand all of those different types of issues or challenges that you have every day, and then to be able to resolve them. Again, you're not going to see your manager each time that you're receiving an email. You're going to know how to do the job. And in an interview, we will definitely give you some examples, or at least asking you a question about, okay, tell us about a time when you had to make a decision, you had to, or you had to solve a problem, what was the case, what you have done, and what was the result. So be ready for this type of requirements as well. Now we also want you to be able to work with computers. This goes, again, this is normal, it's something that everyone should know. We also want you to do the interpretation of the meaning of information for others. This means that when you're working with clinical research department, you need also to be able to explain that to people in sales and marketing and vice versa. So being able to communicate, and again to be I would say to be a type of monitoring those conversations. We also want you to update your relevant knowledge. This is why, and we call that in GMP or good manufacturing practice, requirements, we talk about continuous improvement, where you will need to keep up to date your knowledge about regulations. That may change, okay, laws and regulations and forms, and of course to apply those changes, apply those knowledge to your everyday job. You also need to establish and maintain interpersonal relationships. You cannot just stay in your corner doing your job, just sending you an email and you do the job, not at all. You'll have to go to meetings, interact with people, communicate well, listen well, so through the active listening. And again, as we saw for the work activities in the previous points, to be able to make decisions, to solve problems, to communicate properly, to know about and have the updated knowledge about the laws and regulations and forms and deadlines as well. And one of the other more important, I would say, jobs or work is to analyze the data or information, and of course to be able to explain that to your team members. Now, let's go over the detailed work activities in regulatory affairs. So, you're going to coordinate regulatory documentation. So, when you are going to prepare a package for example, a new drug submission or NDS for Health Canada, you need to learn about how you are going to prepare a submission package. We talk about new drug submission or NDS. Within the submission package, you do have several guidance documents with the rules, with the instructions, with the forms, and with the requirements of Health Canada. And you are going to prepare about 500 different documents minimum in the new drug submission, and you have to put that into a specific structure that we call CTD or Common Technical Document. So your job is not to rewrite documents. You may have to write documents or summary reports, but your job is to collect the information, judge them well, going through the some obstacles and challenges in order to get in a timely manner again the documents and information, and then to look into preparing a new drug submission package, having all of those hundreds types of documents, gathering them, checking them, writing them, rewriting them sometimes, if necessary, or as a summary, and then to look into their format, change them into PDF, checking into, again, any error because of the conversion of the Word to PDF, adding bookmarks to those, files or documents, and then to write or to put the specific documents in a specific sub-modules in the structure of CTD that we call, which is Common Technical Document. And again, this is just for the preparation. So you need to obtain documentation to authorize activities. And you need to prepare regulatory or compliance documentations. That, again, as I told you. You also need to explain regulations, policies, and procedures to your colleagues, but also to colleagues who are not in regulatory affairs. You also need to oversee the business process, because you may start as as an associate, but you are going now to get more and more responsibilities. Hence, you may now need to oversee the business process as a manager or as a project leader, for example. You will also need to be able to advise other departments on legal or regulatory compliance matters. And who knows about the regulatory compliance? You, because this is through your education and keeping up to date your knowledge about the regulations. And again, if you're having a certificate in Reg Affairs from France, you may not use it in order to apply for a job in Canada. You may have some transferable skills, but what is lacking is the regulations in Canada. This is why I always say to my students to go through a formal training on the Canadian regulations if you're applying for jobs in Canada. Then we can also talk, for the detailed work activities, we can also talk about reviewing the documents or compile technical information as well. Now let's go over the work context. Okay, so now I would say what you need to know is, okay, what exactly you're going to do. So one of them is electronic mail. So how often do you use electronic mail in a job? Every day. All of the communications are but through email. Are you going to sit down too much? Yes, if you don't have too many, I would say, meetings, 90% of the time you are going to be seated. Are you going to have indoors or environmentally controlled job? Yes, to about 80%. Do you have face-to-face discussions? It will depend on projects. We usually have projects where we need to have a kick-off meeting, And we need to have a project manager or project leader for those kickoff meetings. It may be you. In this case, you are going to have much more time to use in order to have face-to-face meetings as well. Now, how about the phone? How about, again, the emails? Emails, we already talked about that. We will call you less because we are using much more an email, because an email is also a documented proof of a communication. So we prefer more and more, of course, we have been preferring more and more to communicate with emails. Now, you will also contact, of course, with others. You're going to have a constant contact with others. And you need, of course, to be exact and accurate, being in full compliance with, again, the regulations and guidelines. And, of course, to teach this to others. I would say to be a role model for others as well, those who are doing the same job. Now, talking about the, again, job zone, or I would say mainly for the education, the title is going to be usually Regulatory Affairs Associate. Now, for the education, again, you need to have minimum a bachelor's degree, but you need to have certificates that are related to regulatory affairs. Now, you can now get into a 2-year college or university degree or diploma program, but you can also look into getting corporate level training programs, where in both cases, of course, the second one is faster. This is a fast track, I would say, way to get into the regulatory affairs. If not, for any reason where you would like to justify, for example, to be in Canada through the student visa, obviously you do have longer, I would say, educational opportunities to stay, of course, and then to go through the other steps in your visa or permanent residency. But if not, for preparing, I would say, the qualifications to to ask for jobs in regulatory affairs, it shouldn't take more than 1 semester. It's usually 6 or 7 courses maximum. And of course, it depends which courses. Okay, for example, you can have 4 courses on the preparation of a new drug submission in CTD. This one is a 3-month course. It is mainly, it should be an internship, for example. If not, you have also some other I would say courses on GMP, on GCP, if it's applicable, on writing SOPs, on writing technical documents, on different regulations, and now regulations on medical devices regulations, on food and drugs regulation. I'm talking about Canadian food and drugs regulation, Canadian medical devices regulation, Canadian cosmetics regulation, Canadian, again, natural health products, or I would say non-prescription and natural products regulation. These are all courses that you need to take in Canada, and they're all dealing with Canadian regulations. And of course, this is during those courses that you're going to learn how to prepare a medical devices establishment license application, how you're going to write a new drug submission application for a drug. So these are all, again, I would say in a nutshell, the courses that you need in order to become qualified to work in regulatory affairs. Now, you can, again, do those through a fast-track corporate level training certificates. You can go to a college, okay, 2 semesters. You can go to a university. You can go over 2 years as well. But the content, okay, this is almost the same, and we are teaching the same regulations and guidelines and forms and I would say requirements that are all coming from Health Canada website. So the material is the same. The length of those I would say trainings are not the same. Okay. So now talking about the skills that you need, we talk about active listening, speaking, writing. So it's communication, critical thinking, judgment and decision making, reading comprehension, complex problem solving, system analysis, social perspectiveness, and time management. Now, for the knowledge, of course, you need to know about, again, know English, obviously. You need to know about the laws and the government of Canada, regulations of Canadian regulations. You also need to know about biology, okay, not to have a Ph.D. in biology, of course not, but to know about being able to read and talk about science. read and talk about clinical or human, I would say, physiology, being able to go over or reading or reviewing or I would say proofreading documents for pharmacovigilance. You don't write them, you review them as well. When you are going to prepare different packages for different submissions, you are going to obviously read documents. You are going to make sure that they are now meeting the requirements of the actual regulations to be complete documents, and so that you will be able to send them for the application of the registration of your product. You will also need to have knowledge of chemistry, again, not at a level of a Ph.D., okay, but you need to be able to talk the talk, being able also to know to be able to read medical articles, to understand them to some extent, because you will also write summary reports on animal studies, on clinical trials or human studies. You're going to write summary reports on on chemistry, manufacturing and control, and of course we call that, for the summary, we talk about quality overall summary that we put in module 2 of the CTD when we are going to prepare a new drug submission to submit or to, I would say, to register a drug in Canada. And of course, you also need to have, again, the education and training needed for this type of tasks. So as you see, for the education, the majority is a bachelor's degree, and then up to 10% of jobs we gave them to master's degrees, and about less than, I would say, about 5% of the jobs or less. This is for again post-baccalaureate certified certificate required. So don't forget, again, as per GMP, you need to have minimum a bachelor's degree in order to become qualified to apply for a job in the pharmaceutical field. Now, in order to apply for a job in the pharma field in regulatory affairs, you will need not only to have your bachelor's degree, but to have a few or a diploma, or you're going to need to have corporate level certificates. And again, here they are very specific, specialized, very specialized, short, I would say, short course as well, and it's allowing you to become qualified to apply for jobs. Now, the abilities: oral expression, deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, problem sensitivity, speech clarity, etc., etc. So everything is just about communication. Now, for the interests, we can always talk about that the job is conventional, it's investigative because you have to do investigations, it's also social, it's very realistic, it's not just supposition or doing research, which is always useful but not applicable to a type of, I would say, drug. So we are much more realistic and pragmatic. We look into the practical practice or experimentations, and we write reports. We look into how we are going to show to Health Canada, for example, the efficacy, safety, and quality of a drug. So you will need to prepare those documents, and then to put them, of course, you don't just write the documents, you're going to have templates, or you're going to follow your standard operating procedures in your company, and you're going to prepare those documents within the packages. And how you know what to put in a package, you do have instructions for each submission to Health Canada. You also have regulations that you can read as well. You also have, for many of these works, you have templates that are given to you by Health Canada, or same thing applies to FDA, where if you want to submit or register your drug in the US, of course, you're going to go to the FDA website and you're going to follow the same logic that we're looking here. So looking into the regulations, guidelines, and then forms, templates that FDA gives you, and then you're going to prepare the submission or application for the registration of a product package. So this is, again, just submission, so packages for the submission. Again, if you would like to do notifiable changes, you want to go back and forth with different questions, you need some waivers, so you may not be ready to submit a report that Health Canada asks from you. You have to just write to the Health Canada and ask for a waiver for a few months. We also look into meetings that you would like to have with Health Canada. We can call those pre-CTA meeting. It may be pre-NDS meetings as well. These are all types of jobs that someone in RA does. And of course, for the work values, we can talk about independence, about working conditions that are, of course, very interesting and very, very optimal. We can talk about the, again, achievements, because you will I would say, be satisfied because you are going to work hard, you are going to work very smart with a highly qualified team, and you're all going to be able to put a drug on the market. So the achievement is just huge. I mean, the payoff is not only for you, for your achievement level, but also for the society is just huge. It's very important to be able to be part of teams that are going to put a drug, a new therapy in the market. Now, the work style, attention to detail, you have to proofread many things. You have to submit your submissions to Health Canada, so it must be a final submission. You have to make sure that documents are written in a consistent way. You have to look into not only the science or the accuracy of what is there, or the tables or statistical analysis, but also to the format, to the font size, to indentations, to the I would say the forms that must be the latest form. Sometimes Health Canada changes a form. We need to go to Health Canada website and make sure that we are taking the latest form. So this is how, again, we are going to also show persistence. We're going to show cooperation as well, because it's not a one-person job. And we need to be adaptable and flexible, because you're not going to work only on one project with one deadline and one priority. We are going to have several projects, several deadlines, several priorities, and we will need to, of course, adapt. So we need to be flexible without compromising the quality of the product or the, I would say, the task that you're going to perform. Now for the wages, usually if you look into Canada, this is about $72,000. Here you're looking into the median wage, which is about $70,000 US. But of course, you can always go to, again, on internet, you can just go on Google, for example, or any search engine, and search for Canada space, pay scale space, and then the name of the position, like here, regulatory affairs specialist. And then you're going to be able to look into all of the jobs, all of the, I would say, the salaries on the, pay scale. Okay, don't repeat again. I talk about pay scale here, okay, not any other sponsored link, because you will find a lot. Now when you do a search, you have 2 pages of sponsored links and then what you would like to search for. But again, I use personally this page that I told you. So pay scale is, again, to me, it's a very fair, I would say, information that they give us. Now, as you know, we also have, I would say, transferable skills. So we can see people from regulatory affairs who become compliance managers, compliance officers. They can become document management specialists. They may become environmental compliance inspectors, equal opportunity representative and officers, government property inspectors and investigators. So, and again, you can become a manager or quality control systems manager. So you are going to, when you're going to work on regulatory affairs, you're going to work on skills. You're going to also obtain the skills that will allow you to do some other jobs. Again, don't underestimate your own transferable skills as well. Now, questions about the associations. So let's go over the professional associations. These associations are for, the US. So they have Regulatory Affairs Professional Society, or RAPS. You have Advanced Medical Technology Association, American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists, American Institute of Chemical Engineer, American Medical Association. You also have regional associations and accreditation and certification unions. We have here Society of Clinical Research Associate, International Society of Automation, and Association of Clinical Research Professionals. Just to let you know that here we are talking about the US. When you're applying for a job, pay attention to the job description. Go to eluta.ca or indeed.ca, search for a job related to regulatory affairs in Canada. And then you are going to find out, or you're going to be directed to a page, or to a page where you have hundreds or tens or thousands of again job descriptions, like in eluta.ca, for a job related to regulatory affairs Canada. And then when you open any of those job descriptions, there is no mention of any obligation from you to be member of any association. That's because in Canada, regulatory affairs like pharmacovigilance, like clinical research, like quality assurance, you don't need to become a member of any association or a professional association because those jobs are not regulated in Canada. Even in the US, you may have several associations, but again, these are national associations and they do have exams, they do have different requirements based on the national regulations and rules. So if you are having, again, a certificate in, I don't know, from Russia in best practices in quality assurance, very good for you, but it doesn't cover Canadian regulations. Same thing for other associations. And again, I'm not saying that to you as per, of course, my own opinion. I'm just asking you to go and search for the job descriptions of regulatory affairs jobs on LinkedIn, on eluta.ca, indeed.ca, glassdoor.ca, and read those mentioned, I would say those statements. If you find that any of those jobs is asking you to become member of any association in Canada, then you conclude that you have to be a member. But you will see that there is no mention in any of the job descriptions that you need to be necessarily a member of any association in Canada. And what else I can tell you is that in Canada, the business or the field is so vast and so open that anyone can, of course, in the field can open his or her own association or professional association as well. This is why when you search for professional associations in Canada, for example, you will find about 20 different professional associations for clinical research. Which one to choose? None of them necessarily, okay, unless you would like to just be a member of an association, etc., using some services that they offer to you. Again, I leave it to you and to them, but the same thing applies to reg affairs. So if you would like to know more about also the licenses in Ontario, which is a province in Canada as well, you can also search for regulated jobs in Ontario, and you're going to end up or directed to a page from Government of Ontario, and they will tell you what jobs, medical or non-medical, need to be certified or become a member of an association. If not, again, when you get your certificates from a private college, from a university, and or of course from institutions where they offer you corporate level training that are more specific and they are fast track and less expensive, I would say as well, you will be qualified to apply for jobs in the regulatory affairs field. So again, I just covered the I would say the lecture about regulatory affairs specialist work. We went over the occupational and safety, occupational specific information. We went over the requirements for the technology, about the interpersonal skills. We look into associations, and I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much.